Let us speak of pressure cookers. Pressure cookers. And I don't mean the type that you put on your stove top and put mason jars inside of. I am referring to political and socioeconomic climates, kind of like the one we're living inside of right now. Pressure cooker. I made some videos last year, summer of 22, speaking about the big squeeze and ESG. And at that point in time, I think there was a funding, there was some funding for something like 87,000 new IRS agents. So it was sure looking like the IRS was going to become another more law enforcement like arm of the government, like we need another one. But I'm fairly sure that the funding on that was squashed. So maybe it didn't come to fruition, or maybe they snuck it in a back door somewhere because they're notorious for doing that. But pressure cooker. And I'm going to roll it all the way back to the events that came about because of the cerveza virus and the you know what's. Here, this is really gonna sound like a just completely I'm off my rocker. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm completely off my rocker. It is entirely possible. But believe it or not, this is something that I thought that I was actually thinking about before I ever got before my personal life really blew up because I got involved with a certain person who had from in this video shall remain nameless, but if you've watched my other videos, you know who I'm talking about. I was already thinking these things before I ever got back into contact with him, because about 6 months before I got back into contact with him, I was circling the drain. I was circling the drain. And that's not typical for me. Not out of the blue. Not out of the blue. I have had my struggles with depression at certain very specific points in my life that revolved around certain very specific events that happened during those times. But I've never struggled with depression just out of the blue for no reason. But maybe it wasn't just out of the blue. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it wasn't. I've read a lot of scientific articles. Read a lot of them. When I was still in Florida is when all this stuff got rolling. It's when the lockdowns happened. You know, everybody was wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, whatever. That I was in Florida. And you know, when it first actually I saw this freight train coming because I was watching independent news sources, but long before it ever hit the American news. I knew this stuff was coming. I knew it was coming, and I started preparing because that's me. Worst case scenario thinker. Yeah. So I was already going to the grocery store and stockpiling a lot of shelf-stable food, and I went to the Bass Pro Shop, and I stockpiled some other stuff, you know, certain things that fly through the air at a very rapid speed. Did that too. So then when it hits, when suddenly it hits, it's no surprise to me because I've been on top of this thing already for about a month. And at first I was a true believer. I was a true believer. I was all, I mean, I think I was I was wearing a mask before everybody else was. And then the data started coming out, and stuff just wasn't making sense. Was not making sense. And I'm a pretty logical person, and I've had some training in reading scientific studies. Had to do a lot of that for my graduate degree, and so I started digging. So by the time I came back to Houston, which I didn't, let me be real honest, people. I will be brutally honest with you. I didn't want to come back to Houston. I didn't. I didn't. My kids were up here. When I lived in Florida, it was a lot easier for me to get up here. Florida was supposed to be the last stop before retirement. Yeah, but they blew up the world. So, another job lost, another job found. The ex-husband takes a job in Houston. I don't want to move back to Houston. I specifically asked him, let me go to North Carolina. Let me get something going on the land. Let me live near the kids, and we can visit each other. I don't want to go back to Houston. I don't. I knew that the housing market in Houston was insane, and I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to go back to the concrete jungle that is Houston, with the shitty air quality and crappy tasting water, and in the congestion. I didn't want it. I did not want to go back to Houston. I didn't. And my ex-husband basically said no. And if you want to do that, then we might as well just get divorced. And ironically, now we're divorced. So there you go. And I'm here in North Carolina. But so we go back to Houston, and this is now the time frame where everybody's getting the whats. All these employers are mandating it, yada 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 yada. So maybe in me, I start digging. I start digging. I start looking at scientific studies, and I don't like what I'm seeing. I don't like what I'm seeing. And I'm not going to get into it here because YouTube's going to flag my video, but I did not like what I saw at all. And I had to sit down. I had actually had more than one conversation with my ex-husband about this particular issue. And I said, I'm not doing this. I am not taking this particular medical treatment, primarily for three reasons. Number one, I don't like what I'm seeing. Number two, one of the most common side effects is vertigo. I already have chronic vertigo. I don't need any help. Okay. Number three, I have had very bad, life threatening reactions to those things in the past. And at that point in time, I kind of wanted to keep living. And so we discussed it, and the discussion was that neither one of us was going to take this because of the way things looked. And then about a month goes by, and he tells me that he's going to go get it. And he says, because I don't want to have to wear a mask in the office. I don't want to have to wear a mask in the office. So I'm going to go. Yeah, that didn't sit very well with me at all. Now, and it wasn't just about because he's doing something that I didn't want him to do. That's not what it was about. What it was about was if a person will cave in for something as simple as I don't want to wear a mask in the office, what are they ever going to stand their ground on something? Maybe in his mind it seemed like a minor thing, minuscule. I don't know. I'm not inside his mind. I'm inside mine. I'm inside this one. This one. And this one said, gee, that's some ethical fortitude. Ironically, about a month after he had those, they went back to wearing masks in the office anyways because variants, mutations. And also ironically, about a month after he had that was when I started circling the drain depression wise. Now, perhaps it was the realization of lack of ethical fortitude. Maybe that was it. Maybe that was just like the last handwriting on the wall. I didn't want to be in Houston. I didn't have a lot of friends. There was a lot of moving parts to that. But or could it be shedding? Shedding. When you as a human being become ill with a virus, that virus infects your cells and it replicates itself until you reach a point that those viral particles, you shed them. You may shed them by sneezing, you may shed them through droplets of water. You can even shed viral particles just through the surface of your skin. You can shed them in other ways. That's how, STDs, but we're not going to go there right now. You shed them from other body fluids. Viral shedding. One of the things that these do is they program your body to create a certain protein. So your own body is making this protein so that your immune system will react and create antibodies. That process never stops. All of the research I've seen recently is that process never stops. That you are forever, your body is now forever a protein producing factory. And that protein by itself is pathogenic on its own. So if I'm living in a house with somebody and now they're shedding this thing, I don't know. Could be any number of things. Could have just been that, you know, 29 years of whatever just got to me, moving, my birthday being forgotten that year, a whole lot of stuff. Who knows? Who knows? Other possibility, this thing right here, electromagnetic radiation. It's not that great for your brain, actually. It's really not. Maybe that's it. Now I'm really in the world of Mel Gibson and conspiracy theory. I'm not saying, I am merely presenting options. I am presenting thought problems. For my own predicament. In the end, it doesn't really matter. In the end, it doesn't really matter. That's one of the things that I'm learning now is like, does worrying about this particular issue, can I actually come up with a reasonable and practical solution to this problem? And if the answer is no, or if it's even equivocal, then it's no. And then that means that you're worried about something that you really shouldn't be worried about. That maybe it's just a little bit of, there's some obsessive thinking going on in there. And I will own that. There is a lot of obsessive thinking going on in this head. I've always been that kind of personality. I'm an all or nothing kind of person. But I've never been an addict, ironically. Not to drugs or alcohol. Mm-mm. But just posing the question for those of you that like to waste your time thinking about things that can't possibly ever be proven, unless by some chance, weird twist of fate, sometime in the future, it's proven that that hypothesis or conspiracy theory was actually correct, which we've seen a good bit of lately. Who knows? Like I said, doesn't really matter. I am where I am now. My circumstances are what they are now. I am in the state that I am in now, trying to figure it out to the best of my ability. So, eh, perhaps it's a welcome change from the drama of some of my videos. I'm kind of retiring that. I've said my piece. I've said my piece. Said my piece. I know what I think. It doesn't really matter. I think what I think. Other people think what they think. Just like on these topics, I think I don't even I don't even think what I think. I have suppositions. I have thought wanderings, but I don't know. I don't have enough information. I'm a very logical, scientifically minded person. It's like, give me the data. I gotta have data. I gotta have enough data to make a informed decision on. I don't have enough data on this. So I just have to kind of sally forth, doing the best I can. But I think that's what all of us are doing, because we're all in this damn pressure cooker. We're all in this pressure cooker right now. We are. I don't think I'm the only one that's has days that I feel like I'm hanging on by my fingernails. Every time you fill up your vehicle with gas or you go buy groceries, if you're making $200,000-300,000 a year or more, you don't really notice it all that much. But even now, even if you're making 100 grand a year, you're noticing it. It's hard not to. And I am nowhere near 100 grand a year, not anymore. Nope. I am but a lowly pleb. I have come full circle. I've come back all the way back to my poor roots in Appalachia. Yes. And that's okay. At least the air's clean here. And the water's pretty good straight out of the tap. No filtering.